Greetings, GameCola faithful, and welcome to the GameCola podcast. This is podcast number 173, and I am your host and podcast commander, Joseph Martin, joined by...
I'm Bly Ryder, and most of that cut out for me.
I'm Leaf, and my monitor has gone black and won't come back.
Did you just say 3 for a really long time?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
that was the whole intro.
I heard the first second of it, and then I just heard silence and was very confused.
The whole intro is just 3.
Are you still recording?
Yeah, or is them?
Not the I'm referring to the person whose monitor has gone completely dark.
I did manage to get my monitor back, and it does look like it's still recording. So, yes. Assuming we've been recording for roughly 7 minutes. Roughly.
Yeah, that makes
Very
sense.
roughly. Aw, Blue friend requested me. That's so sweet. We're gonna be friends now.
The energy of this podcast, I'm just going to warn you guys, the energy of this podcast is very strange.
This has been my friend request.
Aww.
I'm so happy.
We've been recording podcasts together for like a while, but we just became friends and we just became Discord official. I think this is a really big occasion.
Video games!
Facebook.
Back in the 1960s, they invented video games, and here we are now, decades later, and you know what? They're still kicking around. You know what people are talking about this time of year?
That 1D game where it was like a big snake tube or whatever from like 10 episodes ago. How's that doing?
No. Incorrect. People are talking about the Video Game Awards. Now, we at GameCola do not do Video Games Awards at this time of year because, as you might have noticed, the year is not actually over and there are still video games. And also, it takes us so long to play video games that we need an extra 6 months to catch up to the ones that we were supposed to be playing over the past 365 days.
Honestly, I do feel like more games media should do it like that. Because it feels like anything that comes out in like November or December, even if it's your job to play video games, you're not going to be able to get to it and get your mind wrapped around it enough to say it belongs in the Video Game Awards Hall of Fame.
There's so much stuff that gets overlooked.
Yeah, like hidden gems, like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
So hidden.
Which came out in December.
What a gem.
Yeah, hidden gem specifically.
Hidden gem.
Yeah.
In the garbage.
Publish the whole trash can.
That was something else.
How dare you say that to me and my fighting game? How dare you?
It was a callback to before
something that won't be in the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for bringing this energy.
I'm just explaining that it wasn't dunking on the fighting games. I'm
just glad that you said it because that was my thought. Just hidden gem.
I'm glad we can always depend on being on the same wavelength.
I know, it's kind of fun.
It's Joe that needs to get on our level.
You know what you missed out on, Joe, before the podcast? Was Blue and I were talking about how our lives, our beds, are the nuclei
of our lives.
Of our lives.
We're just the electrons that orbit around them.
Are there any video games also orbiting these beds with you in both physical and mental spaces?
I have my Steam Deck, so yeah.
Hold on.
Usually.
You guys were talking about a video game just before the podcast started. I started the podcast in a furious hurry to try to capture these video game thoughts before they escaped from your mind. There's Sims likes floating around out there, and you, Leaf, are following at least one of them in the discourse.
Yeah.
Vaguely.
A pair of lives, I believe.
A pair of flies.
Is what it is referred to as.
That's what it's called. Longtime listeners to the podcast may recall, if I ever said it on here, that I was at one point a Patreon subscriber to the pair of flies.
I remember that.
So I probably did say it.
Is that what they call those now?
No.
Subscribers?
Probably not.
Oh, you're just wrong.
Yeah. A patron. A Patreon patron? Maybe? I am the Patreon.
I am the patron saint of Sims likes, actually.
Yeah, but I do not give them money anymore because I have none to give. But
that is a valid reason.
Yeah, I am still in this podcast needs to start making more money. I am still in their Discord. So, and I get to see their free content. And they have made a lot of progress. They've been doing a lot of cool stuff. They've kind of reached a point where a lot of their game development is happening internally, so they don't have as much to like share. But they still post pictures or occasionally. They are using like one of the things that's supposed to be like really good about it is it's just going to have a lot more flexibility than Sims games currently do. You'll be able to Sims games by EA, The Sims franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Sims games mean something else entirely, or it could. But it's gonna have like your paras. We've called them paras. I was still part of the Patreon at that point, so I was able to vote for what we're gonna call these little characters. So you're welcome, anyone who plays this game.
Mm-hmm.
But the paras, like you'll be able to have them be different heights, and they've added a bunch of like body change stuff.
Heights.
The Sims could never. Yes, and like I fully understand why Sims in EA's franchise cannot be different heights because they use.
I don't.
Okay, I was gonna explain it, but now I don't really
EA
want
is
to.
Bad. I'm just saying that I feel like every time we talk about the Sims franchise, I learn about a new lack of feature that I would have just assumed was in the game, and you or Anna always say like, oh yeah, I mean like Sims has never had feet. The
Yeah.
Sims have never had feet.
No. You're thinking of you're thinking of
metaverse.
Meta. Yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying here, right?
Yeah, I feel the same way.
It's like oh yeah, I mean you can have cats, but they can't be.
When you press the start
they can't
button,
walk.
The game starts now after 5 years.
Yes. We are kind of at that point. Like the base game is now free. Like you can actually play the game. And it is almost a full game by itself. What a thought. What a concept. I mean, they like you don't want to get me started on some. You do. It's a problem. Paralives has heights in there because they're using like and I'm gonna butcher the like terms for this, but they're using some sort of like dynamic. I don't want to say AI because it's such a like buzzword, but it's dynamic. It's programmatic, I think is what it's called. Like animation, so it can like it has a like general guideline, right, of the para needs to start here and end here, but it can work with whatever shape or size the para is and make that happen. Whereas the Sims in the Sims franchise 1 and beyond have set animations. So they go from like point A to point B. There is no difference. Every time they do it, they look exactly the same. So it can't adjust for height differences. This results in things like in The Sims 4, in the game, the vanilla game, children cannot be vampires. I know that sounds like it's not important, but children can't be vampires. But there are mods that allow children to be vampires. But anytime you have the child do a vampire animation, they like get super long and stretchy because it doesn't know how to do the animation with that like mesh or whatever without making it vaguely equivalent to an adult's proportions.
I just feel like we've had this technology for decades at this point.
Welcome to Sims 4. See, that's the thing is like Sims
like
2 was, to my knowledge, and Sims 3 vaguely ahead of their times. Sims 4 is behind its own time. And that's like half of the issue. Like it Sims 4 was a step backwards. Sims 4 is like if a Sims video game came out between 2 and 3, it would be Sims 4.
But then why does everybody play it?
Ask Anna, who's they've suckered all her money out. And I get it.
You just said to ask her because you don't get it.
No, I do. Well, I don't do it anymore. All right, I'm sober.
Okay, but why did you?
But it's not just
because
you two.
Sims
It's like
2
there's
and
so
Sims...
everybody is like Sims 4 Sims 4 is bad. But like when Super Smash Brothers Brawl came out, a lot of people just kept playing Super Smash Brothers Melee and continue to this day.
Well, that's the
thing.
And
I hear people talk about how great Sims 2 was, how great Sims 3 was, but I don't ever hear anyone playing it in modern times.
Sims 2 is difficult to play on modern computers, okay? So there's that. Sims 3 is more playable on modern computers, but it is also a horrifically optimized game, okay? That's one thing that Sims 4's technology did better, all right? Their building is better now. It always was like a little bit better, but now it actually is like better. Their create a sim is better. It's the gameplay that is not good. It just is not good.
So like 90% of the
simulation part.
Well, and that's part of the there's a lot of different ways to play The Sims. There always has been. There always have been people who play with their Sims, people who make Sims and don't really use them for much, and people who just build lots. So if you were the type of person that builds a lot, Sims 4 really has almost everything that you need now. I have to keep adding that because they keep
after
adding
like 5
things,
years.
Yeah, they keep adding things to the game that debatably should have been in there from the start. The cast.
So when did Sims 4 come out?
Sims 4 came out, I think, in 2014.
Oh, so almost 10 years ago.
It actually might have been 2013 because I kind of feel like they celebrated their decade anniversary. But yeah, it's been out for an upsetting amount of time. I think the thing with Sims 4, the reason that people keep dumping their money in it is, one, a lot of people that play Sims games only play Sims games. So they aren't putting their money in, by that I mean like EA Sims games, not like simulator games in general. So they're only putting their money in Sims 4. They have their
video game.
They don't know what a video game is supposed to cost. They don't know that over $500 for a game that has any amount of content is actually kind of insane.
I don't pay I've paid for a few DLCs, to be fair, but I don't think I could ever pay more for a video game than the console that it was on. And I get that a computer is different, but still $500 is more than a fancy Switch. Like, you could just buy a Nintendo Switch,
yes,
and still have money for several video games.
So I think it's that the we don't know that we're getting swindled mentality that happens, and then I think it's also that every DLC that comes out, you think this will be the thing that makes the video game fun.
This will finally be it.
This will finally be it. I will finally have the content I desire. They release it at such a slow drip and they make it so expensive because you want to play your teenagers in high school. You want that. But they make you pay $60 for it. And they've done a little better at making the more recent packs something you might play more than once. There was one of the first packs that they released was Strangerville or something. It was their very strange dabbling into having a linear progression in The Sims 4. And so it was for people like me who know how to play video games, about 2 hours worth of content with no strong replay value for $60.
That's too much money.
It is, in fact, too much money. They did learn that was bad because pretty much everyone hated it. That was also one of the packs in which they forgot to put toilets in the NPCs' houses. There were actually a lot of issues with the world in that pack, and they just said it was because the world was supposed to be strange. It was supposed to make you feel like it was weird. But
they didn't test it.
No,
like,
they don't test like
I don't
anything,
know
I
anything
swear.
about Sims.
They've actually gotten a little better
I
about
don't know
testing.
anything about Sims, and I know that if you don't give them a toilet, things go south pretty quickly.
Yeah, this is accurate.
This makes me feel so much better about every bad video game I've ever played.
Honestly, it should. And it's Sims is complicated. I have not played the horse pack. I did not play whatever came before the horse pack.
Werewolf.
No,
The
there
pony hack.
was something else. Because I played werewolves.
Toddlers.
No.
Basic function.
Yeah, that might have been
I cannot fathom
it
Sims
was the
content anymore.
The bathtub pack where they added bathtubs to the game. That's not true. But that genuinely could be the case. I would like to remind everyone that when this game came out, they had not bothered to make the world in color. When you were looking at the map for the world, it was in black and white. I just think that's worth noting. They fixed it, so people have forgotten because it was one of the first things that the game didn't come out with. But when this game launched, it did not have pools, it did not have ghosts, it did not have toddlers, and the map was in black and white. Okay, most of those things, if you haven't played a Sims game, you don't notice as being anything that matter. Like, who cares if you don't have pools and ghosts and toddlers? Those are big deals, actually. The only other game, aside from Sims 4, that came out without toddlers was Sims 1. They've consistently had toddlers since Sims 2.
Even if you knew if you had just a passing familiarity with Sims, you would know about pool shenanigans being an integral part of the social experience.
I think so. Sims 4 came out in September 2nd, 2014.
So we're really just hoping that one of these Sims killers does kill the Sims so that people can have a good game for a decent price?
Yeah. I mean, I don't care if it dies. I just want something else to live, you know? I don't think that this needs to be an equivalent exchange sort of situation. I think
But it would be good for so many people's wallets if it was.
Yeah. It
would save lives.
What would be good is if EA let the developers make a good game. That would be nice.
Well, that's EA ever.
It's been 10 years. I think the ship may have sailed.
Yeah.
Steam summer sailed, if you would.
Oh, yeah. So the next pack that's coming out is the For Rent expansion, which is going to introduce apartments to The Sims 4. But hey, guess what? We already have apartments in The Sims 4. They're doing it again. But they're doing it.
What does that mean?
Quote unquote, right this time. Because the apartments.
So there's already a DLC?
Yeah, that you can pay for that adds apartments to the game. But this will be adding apartments. This will be giving you the ability to build an apartment yourself instead of just living in the ones that they pre-placed in the game, because for some reason, that's how they did it when they released the first time. Despite the fact that in Sims 2, you could build your own apartment. In Sims 2.
So when it comes time to vote in the GameCola year-end awards when we do that this summer, you're going to vote for Sims 4 for best game of 10 years ago?
That's correct.
That's what I'm getting from this?
That's exactly right. Okay, I think
most improved. Most improved.
They're not getting that.
But just by the sheer factor of how bad it was in the beginning. It's still not good, but
I understand what you're saying, but the fact it took 10 years is ridiculous. I do think I lied to you. I think that the horse pack was the most recent one that I didn't play, because it kind of looks like the one that came out before that was High School Years, which I did make myself play. And you know what High School Years had was a joke in it, where you know how when we were children, it was really trendy to plank in random places.
Mm-hmm.
For all of you people who have no idea what I just said, it's when you lay down on a surface as if you are a board of wood, basically.
Usually one where you would only be supported in your midsection, or perhaps your front and over something.
Yeah, like
not just like lying face down on the ground.
You can lay down face down on the ground.
I think people did do that.
I do think that like the gimmicky part behind it was to make it look like you were just like so rigid that you could plank on a little tiny something. I don't know. So Sims
it was like
4,
still frame parkour.
Yeah. Sims 4 wanted to capture the vibe of that by having their Sims do a challenge like that. And the challenge they chose was to have them T-pose, which is funny, except Sims just do T-pose because they break a lot. So it just looks like something you already see in the game a lot.
That's probably how it caught on in the world of those high schoolers. They were like, man, these people just randomly do this. Yeah. This is pretty funny. Let's do it on purpose.
I mean, you're not like, it is funny. It's a funny joke, but it's also annoying because it's like, fix your game instead of just playing into the fact that it's broken. High School Years is okay. It's glitchy. Are we shocked? No. Did it break the game as much as the wedding pack? Also no. That's it. I'll move on.
Blue.
Yeah, that's me.
What's the worst video game that you like?
Maybe Chaos Head.
What's Chaos Head?
That's the one I talked about last time.
Refresh my memory.
It's a visual novel that is good.
I said the worst video game that you like.
It's good.
This feels like I'm not saying
this sounds like it's the type of good that's like took some pieces of glass from a trash can, polished them, and then published the trash can. Am I picking that up? Right?
That is actually very accurate.
I'm gonna keep calling back to a conversation that will not be in the podcast. Yeah, so it's a type of good where it's like you had a good time.
I guess just Avengers because everyone else hates that game.
That's true.
It had so much potential.
But I think
man, when games have potential, that's the worst. When all they have is potential.
No, right, because there's plenty of games. There are plenty of games that are good and have potential. Yeah. Like, you don't have to be bad to have potential. Like, Breath of the Wild was both a fantastic game and had potential.
Sure.
Like, there were very clear things you could look at and say, this is great. Also, it would be so much better if I didn't have to stop playing the video game every time it rained. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not even an excuse. Like, potential can be great.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's kind of how I think I felt about
with
my
that
time
game
at
in
Porsche.
particular. It wasn't even like necessarily that it was bad. It was just that people decided it was bad, and so like they couldn't help it live up to its potential. They basically had to give up like making it good when they first announced it because the immediate backlash was so big that they couldn't. They were just like, well, it's not even worth it at this point. But if it had like taken off, I feel like it would have been allowed to get what they had to, from a business standpoint, take away from it, and it would have been really good. I think that's my theory.
It's a really good theory.
There's an obvious segue that you're supposed to do at this point.
There is a Kickstarter right now for Rivals 2, which is the sequel to the fighting game Rivals of Aether.
What is that? What are you doing? How is this a segue?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Is what you're talking about is it a segue or is it a joke?
Yeah, I didn't get the segue.
Talked about a video game that they play a lot that's bad. I asked Blue about a video game, the worst video game that you love.
Yeah.
Hey,
anyway,
Joe,
Blue, let's just keep talking to each other. Joe doesn't play video games. This question doesn't apply.
Battle Network. I like Battle Network. but you...
That's not bad.
Oh,
Battle Network
okay.
isn't bad.
For the record, I
haven't seen you, give it any positive feedback, I think, so...
No, I liked Battle Network. I like the world of Battle Network a lot. I really like the combat of it. It's just the overworld stuff they've struggled with.
That's fair.
But no, the combat of Battle Network is really interesting. Really engaging. It's
I
the
wish
kind of thing
there were
where it's
more things like that.
Yeah, the worst video game that I like.
You didn't just.
It might be the one that I'm playing right now, which is Pokemon Sleep.
How's that going?
It's just going. It's just not interesting anymore.
Catch any shinies yet?
I've caught 2, and those were both very early on in the playtime, and then I haven't caught any left. They just had an Eevee event where you could catch more Eevee, or you could see more Eevee, and the problem is that there's no, you fill your Pokedex equivalent in Pokemon Sleep by seeing Pokemon sleeping in different ways, which happens after you go to sleep, you press the sleep button, you wake up the next day, and you see which Pokemon you get. But so, when you have, then you can, give them snacks, and if you give them enough snacks, they'll befriend you, and then you can use them to gather resources to give the Snorlax. But, there's no reason to, get a bunch of different Pokemon on your team for completionist sake, right? Yes, there's diversity in this Pokemon does this berries and this Pokemon does this berries and this food, and maybe certain combinations, and evolving them and leveling them up will give you more resources. But you don't get if I take a Pokemon that I have the pre-evolution but not the next evolution, and I evolve it, that doesn't progress. There's no reason to not have a team entirely of Pseudo-Wudo if that's just what you have the most of. If that's your best ones, there's no benefit aside from the potential diversity of resources, which isn't even that necessarily diverse. So I'm saying, should I spend all this time trying to, level up the Pupitar to turn into a Tyranitar when I could probably spend the same amount of time leveling up another Meowth into a Persian? So, but I do like that it tells me how long I slept. And that's pretty much all I use it for now. It tells me how long I was asleep.
So it's
roughly.
I was gonna ask you, but I feel like you already answered my question. What would you say is the worst Pokemon game specifically that you've played?
So yeah, I mean mobile, but mobile that's punching down a little bit. What if we take it to console?
Sure.
The worst or the worst main series Pokemon game?
Yeah, let's do that, and then I also want your worst Mega Man game that you also still enjoyed. You need to have, on some level, enjoyed playing this game.
Is there a Mega Man game you haven't enjoyed?
Yeah.
Okay.
And haven't enjoyed at all?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, I can think of the 2 Mega Man games that I've had the least amount. Well, yeah, I can think of my least favorite of all of the main series that I've played so far. The worst classic Mega Man is Mega Man 8, and that's not a particularly interesting answer. That's a pretty common answer. And but again, it's there's parts of Mega Man 8 that are good, but the levels are too long, and they're all focused on a gimmick, and it's slow, and it's got jump slide, which is terrible. Mega Man X, the worst. Well, so I know that I haven't played 5 through 8, and I know that somewhere in 5 through 8 is usually people's least favorite. But of 1 through 4, I didn't like 3 that much. I felt like it kind of lost the plot a little bit, and then 4 kind of crafted a new identity, which sort of brought it out of that. The Mega Man X1, I feel like it was super good, really solid, and then X2 was sort of like making a photocopy of a photocopy, where it was yeah, this is still pretty good, but I feel like we've lost a little bit. There were some things added in X2 that were cool, but then also it felt like we kind of lost it a little bit of the way. And then X3, similar, where it just feel like it was doing things because that's what it did in the last games and not really thinking about why they worked.
Mm-hmm.
Having a bunch of hidden items, and then having these weird dependencies of the hidden items, and if you actually use these hidden items and you can't get the super secret hidden item that's actually the best one. I think it was oh, cool, hidden items, and not this is what makes a video game fun. This is what's fun about collecting hidden items. Mega Man 0-1, feels like a beta of Mega Man 02, and Mega Man 03 is when they actually figured it out. 01 is very rough. It's got a crazy save system that I've talked about before. I mean, Mega Man Battle Network 1 is the worst, but not in like a particularly interesting way, just in that they've figured things out better as time went on, sort of way.
But it was like good
not
at
anything
the time.
Well, what do you mean?
They have figured things out better since then. But when it came out, was it good? Or was it still
No, I mean, I think it was still like a lot of the core of what made Mega Man Battle Network good was in the first game.
Okay.
They just like they did build on it in better and better ways, and not quite in the same way where like Mega Man 0 feels like it just doesn't really have a cohesive thought into what it's supposed to be. And they don't really coalesce until 02. Mega Man Battle Network 1 still has sort of like the cohesive structure of 2 and 3. I haven't played 4, 5, and 6 yet. It's just that 2 is better than 1 and 3 is better than 2. As I remember, it felt like they did solve a lot of like fundamental problems from Battle Network 1, like having chips that were like in Mega Man Battle Network, you can use chips if they're the same type, like if they're both cannons, then you can use the two cannons, or if they have each chip has a letter code, and so if they're the same letter code but different types of chips, then you can also use those on a turn. You can set some grouping of them. And in 2, I think the biggest thing mechanically that they introduced in 2 were chips that had a star symbol, which could be used in groupings of anything. That really just smoothed things over in terms of like what you could do on a turn. So I think those are the main ones that I've played. I've played a couple of Game Boy games, I guess, but even still, the Game Boy games, yeah, that's sort of where I stand on Mega Man games that I don't like. The worst Mega Man game is Mighty Number 9.
Is there a game
that didn't land at all? Apparently, okay.
I laughed. It just didn't go through this.
Is there? I think we already heard the answer from Blue, but in case it is different, let me know. But is there a game that you enjoyed, but you enjoyed a lot, but wouldn't recommend it to other people? Not that you'd say don't play this, but like you just don't feel like you should recommend it. Like
that is still chaos.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's exactly what I said last time.
Yeah.
Joe, are you gonna play Gravity Circuit? Because it might be your game of the year from what I hear.
I've been trying to play video games. I played Mega Man X on the plane, but I haven't just been able to sit down and play some video games, okay? I'm working on it, though. Here's my struggle. I'll tell you my struggle. I was playing Link's Awakening, having a pretty good time, and then I got to this one dungeon, the 7th dungeon, and there's just too much going on here. There's too many different puzzle mechanics, and it's just a pain to keep track of everything. And so I kind of fell off a bit.
And then you started playing Pokemon Sleep because you thought that maybe you needed a break after waking up so much.
That doesn't take up the video game time. Pokemon Sleep does not take up time that I would be spending playing other video games.
It takes up time you'd be spending sleeping.
Sometimes, yes, which is a design flaw. There's a design flaw that you can't get in a situation where you go to sleep like 10 minutes later than you were originally going to because you have to finish up all of the sleep stuff before you can go to sleep. You have to like give Snorlax all his food and check which Pokemon you got that day and all that. That is a design flaw. But so the problem is that I don't want. Let me just. Oh, okay. Well, why don't I just play a different video game? Like let's get back on Battle Network. But I just don't want to add another game to the list of Legend of Zelda games I've only played most of or part of. I think I've only completed or beaten, I should say, like gotten to the credits of 2 Legend of Zelda games that I've ever played.
Oh.
Which are Minish Cap and Breath of the Wild.
Wait, say that again? You've only...
Of all the Zelda games that I have played, I've only played all of the video game of Minish Cap and Breath of the Wild.
I guess you're not counting games that you've seen the end of.
So yes, most of those games are games that I started and did not finish,
Yeah.
Skyward Sword would be a weird exception where I finished it but did not start it.
Yeah, that's the one that, which, I still feel valid in not being able to do that myself. And
that's the one that Leaf and I played together,
when we were
handing off on the
little,
different parts.
we were itty
We weren't that
bitty.
little.
No, we weren't. We didn't know each other when we were that little.
No, we were in high school at least.
We were in high school at least.
But like, I've started first Legend of Zelda, did not finish it.
Mm-hmm.
Started second Legend of Zelda, did not finish it. Stopped at the final boss of Link to the Past because they were like, "Oh, you beat the final boss, except you didn't get the magic item that lets you actually beat the game." Didn't finish that. Link's Awakening is what I'm on right now, and I'm struggling not to add it to the list. Started Ocarina of Time, didn't beat it. I have never actually started Majora's Mask. I don't even think I got to the adult sections in Ocarina of Time.
I think I got the adult section of Ocarina of Time and then stopped. But not because I wasn't having a good time. I did not play it until you could only really play it through emulator. So it was just kind of a pain in the butt.
I played it on Virtual Console back in the day. I got to when you go back to the island in the sneaky section of Wind Waker, didn't finish that. I've only watched you play Twilight Princess Leaf.
Did you?
Skyward Sword I only played the second part of.
It's okay. Mm-hmm. That game's not very fun. That's Skyward Sword is a game where they took a bunch of shards out of the trash, put them back in the trash without touching them, and then published the trash can. Actually, they took a bunch of stuff out of the trash can that wasn't broken, shattered it, and then put it back in the trash can.
No, I thought they took a couple little shiny pieces and like pushed them together into like one section. They put them like in the middle of the trash can.
Yeah.
Because all of the best parts of Skyward Sword are in the hub world.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's really.
I'm not saying all of the HUD world is good.
You know what it is?
I'm just saying all of the best parts.
The lid of the trash can looks really good, but the contents are questionable. But opening the trash can is a pleasant experience.
I didn't even finish Triforce Heroes. So, like, it's just, I don't want there to be another Zelda game on the list where it's like, yep, I played most of it, didn't beat it.
I mean...
But it feels like where I'm trending to at this point.
Yeah. I don't know.
So that's
I think
my
there's
struggle.
Value of just playing things even if you don't beat them. I think beating a game is difficult for almost any game. Like I think most of the time when you play a game, or people in general, you don't beat the game. Like it takes a good game to... I'm not saying they're bad, but like it takes a good game and an appropriate time in your life and in the release of that game for everything to line up and for you to actually like play the game from start to finish.
Or enough peer pressure if you're susceptible to that.
Blue, have I told you to play My Time as a Teenage Exocolonist?
Vampire Survivors.
No, I
know. No, but you did talk about it and I was like, ooh, that sounds good.
You should play that. Especially if you want...
Like, Blue is definitely susceptible to peer pressure, especially from Leaf.
Well, I know exactly what Blue needs.
This is true.
I'm here.
So far, that have not.
I don't think I've steered Blue wrong yet.
Batting 1,000, I think.
Yeah.
Is that how that works?
You should definitely play, because if you like graphic novel vibes, that's the hardest part I have in like convincing people to play My Time as a Teenage Exocolonist, is that like graphic novel-esque games are not their thing. And this isn't even a true like graphic novel game. It just has a decent amount of like reading and while characters don't move. But there is also like portions of the game that you interact with and play. But that is a game that I played so much of. Like I played so much of that game. I beat the game and then I beat it again and again and again and again because it has a phenomenal replay value, which I love. I didn't
like Mega Man.
Every single ending. I got every single ending I could figure out how to achieve without Googling it. And then I think I don't even know for sure that there's another ending that I can get, but I think there is. And maybe someday I'll Google it and then try it, because I tried a couple of different times but wasn't able to figure it out. But that's okay. Like I am learning that needing to Google to play a game isn't a bad thing. And that if it's the only way that you will get through the game, it's what you need to do. It's better to like Google and get to actually play the game than to just not play it. Which my time as a teenage exocolonist, I have played that game. Like we're not, to the point where it's like I didn't even play it, but Blue play it, you can be gay. That's all I'll say.
It is interesting how supplemental material for video games has evolved over time, right? Like at the beginning, it was like strategy guides that you would buy to help you. And then after that, you had like GameFAQs. GameCola had a GameFAQs arc a bit. A lot of prominent GameCola members back in the day were also prominent GameFAQs writers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We had whole columns about it.
Right?
And now I feel like, I don't know if we're at like the tail end of it or we're still in the middle of it. And just because I don't know what the next thing would be or if we even have started the next thing.
Game lies.
Well, no, now what we're in now is the era of wiki.
Yeah.
Game wikis.
Yeah. We're in the era where some
that's
games
the supplemental material.
release with a wiki that you cannot play the game without referencing.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Isn't
basically
that Dwarf Fortress?
It was Minecraft.
But I feel like Dwarf Fortress released before the wiki. Minecraft was like impossible to play without the wiki, but not like intentionally so.
I don't know what they expected you to do. I guess it was just made by one dude and he just did what he could, but like now it does have the recipe book built in so that you can actually figure out what the recipes are without referring to Google. But yeah, like that, I remember like when Joe and I played was very much before that was a feature in the game. When like if you wanted to know how to craft things, you had to Google it, and that extended to like any Minecraft mod you played too. Like you had the mods wiki open also, because otherwise you just would be throwing blocks arbitrarily in a 3x3 set of squares until maybe you got something, which isn't fun. And now we've reached this like also kind of weird point where I think that most games recognize games that have Minecraft vibes where or any sort of like survival game that's item heavy, right? Or that you have items that often interact with each other. They recognize that there is value to having an in-game reference to these things. So like for example, in a game like Stardew or like My Time at Sandrock, it used to be that like you just had to remember what villagers liked, but now games like that often will record it for you. So like you have the option to figure it out in the game yourself. If you give it a villager a diamond and they don't like it, the game will record that, but it won't necessarily give you that information outright. So you can like choose between trial and error, the game revealing to you how things work, or Googling it. But I often find that I just Google it because I'm not a ram my head against the wall until I make it work sort of person.
So the question is like, what's the next stage? Like, are people going to be asking AI chatbots how to beat video games? Is that what we're going to next?
Maybe.
I mean, they've all read GameFAQs. They've all stolen all the GameFAQs content. So like, they should know how to. Chatbots should know how to play every video game, at least before like 2010 or something. I wonder. Maybe this is a video idea that I shouldn't be publishing on the podcast. But like, can I get a chatbot to get me through a video game that like I've never played before?
Yeah.
I think can do that on a stream.
Yeah, I think you could do it with a video game that you have played before. Like, I think if you tried to do it with Minecraft, it could be fun. Like, knowing what you need to do already, but only doing it if the, like, chat tells you to.
The problem is like, you want to be careful about, like, oh, would I have known this is what it meant if I hadn't played the video game before?
Yeah, I think it would be more fun if you just do what it says and don't know.
Yeah, I think you would want someone on the stream who does know, just in case, like, you get really stuck. But
yeah, sure.
Otherwise, yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. That's fair.
We can do that.
Another thing
I wonder how it would tell you to play The Sims.
Oh my god. I don't even know, like, That would actually be really funny because the way that you play The Sims has in some ways changed, and it can actually be kind of difficult to tell if a forum is talking about Sims 2, Sims 3, or Sims 4 sometimes if you're Googling like specifically small things. So like it very well could just have very inaccurate information at all turns.
Great, let's do it.
Yeah, I don't think Sims 4 is the choice, but I think something like that potentially.
But it's free.
Yeah, the base game, which is almost a full game by itself. Took 10 years. Good job, everyone.
So close.
I did have a thought of a game that we could play on stream. And well, it's not a video game, but I watched a bunch
there's that detective game that is procedurally generated. What was that one called?
That sounds fun.
It's really cool.
Have you heard of the non-video game?
No.
Telestrations?
No.
You said no before I said the name of the game.
No, I said it before you finished. Well, I thought the non-video game was the name of the game, which I had not heard of that either. I haven't heard. I haven't heard of anything that's not video games. I don't know if you know this. In the podcast zone, I exist as Joseph Martin Podcast Commander, and Joseph Martin Podcast Commander does not know anything except video games.
If we did a stream where we played like some of the online board games, like I'm pretty sure they make like Murder at House on the Hill. Like I think there is an online version of that. That would be really fun.
Who played hockey together? Was it Paul and? They played like hockey.
I would imagine
the board
that sounds like something Paul and Jetty would do.
But Telestrations, like it is a non-video game, but you can definitely like play it digitally. Like you can find ways to play it digitally. So most recently I watched people playing it in Minecraft. And basically how it works is
we could also just do Gardic Phone.
I don't know what that is.
It's the one where you draw. It's kind of like a Pictionary, but you like draw.
It's free Jackbox. Yeah,
you draw a picture and then someone says what it is, and then the next person draws what that person said without seeing the first picture.
No, that's it. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Gardic Phone.
Yeah. I didn't know that there was a video game version of it. I mean, it makes sense. It's not like a terribly unique idea.
Gardic Phone is actually wildly popular, and it's kind of funny that you've never heard of it.
I don't play video games.
But you watch content on YouTube. I know you do. I've seen
it.
You've shared it with me. You've shared YouTube videos to me.
I watch a lot of Minecraft content, and I do not play Minecraft anymore.
That's the best way to play Minecraft.
Honestly, it is. Like, they've added so much. Did you know they added camels?
I think I did know that at one point.
They added frogs and fireflies, and then they had to remove the fireflies. I know that. Yeah.
I don't remember.
Because they're poisonous to frogs. They had to remove them. They removed the ability to play multiplayer without dying.
What?
Ruining your account forever.
Oh. They made it so that if you die in the game, you die for real.
Yeah. I think I mentioned...
And if you die for real, you die in the game.
Palia had that bug where...
If you die in the game, you die for real.
Yeah, that bug. The bug where if your character was T-posing and you opened the wardrobe, you would, like... Your character would, like, basically just randomly generate all over again. And change like parts of their body that like you aren't supposed to be able to change aside from the initial character creator. So they implemented a fix, but so that bug doesn't exist anymore. But they also needed to implement a fix so that like the people who were affected by the bug could change their character. So now you just can change those parts of your character in the game, but you can only do it once a week. It's just a weird solution, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean at that point just just make it cost a little bit of money, right? Or something in-game money, like in-game currency, not like microtransactions.
Right.
But I feel like because that's what Stardew Valley did, I think, right? Like they just added a mechanic where you could change your character's appearance, but like it wasn't just like trivial, but it was close. Yeah. I don't remember exactly what you had to do, but I don't think it was. I think it was the kind of thing where it was like if you had actually invested enough time in a particular save file where you wouldn't just start over. Like, it wouldn't be something that you could do at the very beginning of the game. but it would be something that you could do
Right.
if you would reach that point where it's like, oh, I want to change what my character looks like, but I don't want to start all the way over. Like, that's sort of the balance that I think.
Right.
I think that's what that's
Or
what I
they
would
could,
have done.
like,
So I hope that's what they would have
well,
done.
or they could have, like, because they had a bug also where there was like an item that was you needed to get for a quest that was bugged, so you couldn't get it, and so people would waste resources trying to get this item, so they fixed it, and then they also, like, anyone who had reported having that bug, like, got a free supply of that resources, like 99 of it or something like that. They should have just done that, where, like, they made like a one-time item sort of thing where anyone who, like, reported this bug or within a certain time frame after this announcement reported being affected by this bug will get this item in their game, and then they can change their appearance, because it seems like that's not something they wanted. But also at the same time, it does feel like they need to have that capability because the character customization is extremely limited right now because the game's in beta, including the fact that I think the last time we talked about Palia, you still couldn't have beards. You can now. That would have been but that would have also fallen under the customization that you were able to change. Like, it only was stuff like your face shape and, like, your skin tone and stuff that you couldn't change outside of character creator.
I see.
I don't know.
I don't
know.
So we're at the stage where we would talk about video games we've been playing in recent times. But Blue, this is you've got the floor, I think. Unless, well,
yeah,
somehow the person with probably the best reason to not have played any video games is probably the person who's played the most video games.
Yeah, it is.
Blue,
Very annoying.
Would you like to talk about why you are the person with the best reason to not play video games?
I broke my finger at work.
Aww.
A car rotor fell on my hand.
Ow.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Are your fingers, like, taped together?
Mostly I have a splint.
Okay.
It's annoying. I can't hold a mouse properly or type or practice guitar or there's so many projects I need to work on and it's slowing me down and I'm irritated.
Tragic. Genuinely tragic.
Oh, and yeah, so I haven't finished Alan Wake 2 even though I really want it.
You just have to, like, let it mellow
my shooty
down.
finger.
Maybe by the time you play it, New Game Plus will be out. I hope that's not
Maybe.
because I think it's quite a ways out, but
Yeah, you have to not use it for like 3 more weeks.
Jeez. Well, that'll just give you you just have time to read.
Well, yeah, that's why I've been playing Steins Gate, because it mostly needs like 1 finger to play.
You have at least 9.
Yeah, but like it's hard to hold things.
Which finger is it?
The middle finger. So like it'd be easier if it was like just if I only had to, like, if it was gone, it would almost be easier because it just gets in the way and there's a big splint on it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to hold things because I have to keep it out of the way.
I think you
really
might be able to play Teenage Exocolonist. I don't remember it being mouse heavy. I think that, like, you can just use the keyboard.
Isn't this also like the perfect opportunity to become ambidextrous?
What are you proposing, Joseph?
To use the mouse with your other hand.
Become ambidextrous.
And then what?
And then get better at using your other hand for video games with a mouse and become ambidextrous.
But the issue is that Blue has a moving stick on his hand.
But only one of them.
Like, yeah.
So use the other one.
But Blue, have you considered growing a third arm?
What do you mean a third? Only one hand is injured. Why is everybody laughing at me?
I'm laughing at both of you because it's just...
Like,
so
I'm now getting to the point where
confused.
I'm concerned that Blue has always only had one arm, and I'm just now finding out about it.
Why?
So anyway, Steins Gate
Blue,
is
can you please confirm to me that you
visual
have two
novel.
arms so I don't feel bad about...
Blue, don't tell
I
him.
can neither
Don't tell him.
confirm nor deny the amount of arms I
I
currently
feel like
have
it
or
would
do
have
not have.
come up earlier.
Why? Why do you think you're
Sometimes,
entitled
Joe,
to know
your
anything
feelings
about
don't
Blue?
I'm not
reflect
entitled. I'm
reality.
just saying that I feel like it would have just come up naturally in conversation about playing video games.
I think this is very ableist of you, Joseph.
I'm saying that I think I would have stumbled into a faux pas much earlier in my interactions with Blue.
It's okay to be wrong, Joe.
I don't even know what I'm wrong about.
First step is in.
Help, Martin Joseph has entered the chat. How did he get here?
So Steins Gate is a visual novel in the science adventure series. Most people who have heard of Steins Gate will know it from the anime, which is really good. I watched it first about like a decade ago, I think. And I remembered it being really good. And I watched it again recently, and it was still really good and sadder than I remembered. But it can be a little annoying in like the first bit. So if you skip the first 7 or so episodes, I won't tell if you don't.
It's one of those shows where it's like, oh yeah, just like don't watch like a lot of it, and it's really good.
Well, no, it's just because I had already seen. If you can watch it the entire thing one time through, because it is really good at setup and payoff. So, but I had already seen it and I watched it and I was like, I'm a little bit more annoyed than these characters than I remember being. So I skipped forward a couple episodes. But aside from that, it was really good. And so, as I said earlier on earlier episodes, I did play Chaos Head Noah, which is the first in the science adventure series, and the newest game came out this year, Anonymous Code, and a lot of people talked about it being a masterpiece and game of the year, or their game of the year, and so I was thinking, I've been wanting to get into this series properly for quite a while, and there's only like 6 months before the GameCola Game Awards. And that's a game I want to, like, consider or, like, have played to know if I want it in my nominations. But I wanted to play the rest of the series, first of all, because getting into labyrinthine, interconnected series and doing the entire thing as completely as I can is usually how I go into games franchises. And then also because apparently the new one also just has big implications for the rest of the other games. And so either it is like the big Avengers moment for the series, or maybe the next one will be, because the next one is a Steins... When they first announced it, they said Steins God was the title, but they apparently didn't like that.
It's not a type of door.
So
I feel like Steins Gate, Steins Door, Steins
well,
Drawbridge.
now it's Steins question mark question mark question mark.
Steins
yeah.
Portcullis?
No, Steins question mark question mark question mark is the...
Is that what's going to be printed on the box, or is it like they just haven't decided yet?
Maybe, yeah, nobody's sure. We're a bit, it's confusing.
The question is...
But because since Science-Gate is by far the most popular entry in the franchise, I could see them doing the next Steins title and make it their big Avengers moment. Because I did read in an interview like a couple years ago that was originally the plan, was to have these separate series in this franchise and then have some sort of Avengers style crossover. So I'm thinking that might be the next one. So yeah, I've finished Chaos Head. Now I'm going through Steins Gate. And it is, first of all, it is very refreshing coming off of Chaos Head, because it is just so, it's such an improvement in every way. Like, when Chaos Head was good, it was really good and compelling. But when it wasn't, it was not good. And I'm glad I powered through it, but I hope I don't have to do it again. But Steins Gate is like the main character like is so much less detestable immediately.
I feel like video games have had problems with that. Like, we'll make we'll make our main character bad, but it's on purpose.
Well, it made sense for games like The World Ends With You, where like personal growth was like one of the main themes of the game.
You still have to hang out with the terrible person for an extended period of time. I don't like doing that personally in my personal life.
Yeah. This was, I think, out of all the games I've ever played, this was like the most just I did not like that character. He got better, kind of, but Steins Gate just starts at like its bottom of the barrel is like much higher than like Chaos Head's bottom of the barrel. So it's nice to have a new rock bottom that is enjoyable-ish. It's also, when I remember watching the anime and I had a few sticking points, and now that I'm playing the game, I see why they didn't go deeper into some concepts that they introduced, and it's because it's like a sequel to Chaos Head, and so they didn't want to have to explain it in the anime version. So in the game, they're like fixing these problems I had not fixing, but like I'm discovering the like fixed version of these problems I had with it because I have been playing the series, and there's like these connections that I'm building and understanding, which is cool because I didn't know how connected things got. I just assumed there'd be like a reference once in a while if you knew and were paying attention, but there's like actual like it's surprising how tangible it is and how like well they link up. So that's really cool. So I'm looking forward to going through the other games and experiencing more of that. I do feel a bit sad that I'm going through this one and I know the entire story basically from watching the anime, because one of the best parts about the last game was the mystery parts and like the way the story progressed and asking all these questions and trying to figure out, first of all, like what was happening, but also just the rules of the universe and how the science was supposed to work. And yeah, it was a very compelling feeling mystery where just constantly the world around you was not what it seemed. But for this one, I know most, if not all, of the story beats, so it's gonna be... It's still fun, and I'm enjoying reading it, and there's still a lot of new details that are nice to learn about, but I'm looking forward to getting on to the next one so I can go in fresh, and yeah. So that is that, I think.
Cool.
Well, I'm excited to hear about your further adventures with... What is the series called? Is there
SCIADV is what the like shortened version is, but you can also just call it the Science Adventure. It is if you're like me and you want to go through every bit of media for it, you just contact me. I'll give you a list because it's complicated. It's complicated. Like, there's two titles from the newest one. Occultic 9, which started off being in, like...
Didn't they already make a movie about that?
Spin-off? No, it was an anime, but
well, there's also the movie 9 that's also
Occultic 9 with the semicolon in between.
But you understand the connection I'm making here.
I guess, but no. It's all of these things are blank and then semicolon and then other word, and that's the naming convention of the entire series.
It's not blank semicolon blank, it's blank semicolon other word.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah. X semicolon Y.
Mm-hmm. That works.
And so there's Anyways, there was the newest one, and then 2 titles before that. They made a title called Occultic 9, but it wasn't a game. It was a series of light novels. And they put out 3 volumes of that light novel, and then they didn't put out the last one because they turned it into an anime instead. And then I guess they didn't finish that anime because they wanted to turn it into a visual novel. And then they didn't finish the visual novel. And then they're like, we're going to make a remake of the visual novel. Because most of the other ones have remakes that, like, give a lot more content and true ending stuff. But then they never did that. They canceled it. And so that one is really complicated. And I'm going to have to, I think I determined the best way to get the most amount of content and context without just getting stuck on a bunch of it is to read the books and then watch the anime. And that'll give you the most complete version aside from all of them.
If you would like Blue to give you a complete breakdown of Science or whatever it is.
Science Adventure series.
But it was SCIA...
DV.
Okay, so sorry. Science. If you would like Blue to do that for you, what you can do is you can go to the GameCola Discord, where we talk about video games with lots of people that are cool. You can find it in the episode description on our YouTube channel, GCDotNet, the letter G, the letter C, the word dot, the word net. Or you can find it on our actual internet website, GameCola.net. You can find a little Discord icon there. And you can do that. You can also, to get more updates on video game stuff related to GameCola, you can follow the podcast on iTunes or Spotify, or you could just watch it on YouTube if that's how you prefer. But if you're watching it on one of those other platforms and you're like, hey, I prefer to watch it on this platform, Bill, then you just look up GameCola. In fact, there are plenty of other weird podcast things that we somehow ended up on, and I'm not really sure why. You can also send us, if you want us to talk about things on the GameCola podcast, you can talk to us about it on the Discord, and it could show up. We also sometimes do little live events. We played Jackbox games a little while ago, and like every single time we play Jackbox Party Pack 3 TKO, we end up with a new server emote. So you could be a part of history. Is there anything else you guys would like to add before we wrap up?
I did granularly filter through and make a list of only the stuff that is canon, because that'll be faster for me, and it's complicated. But so I'm doing the canon stuff. I can give you just the important stuff, and that will be possibly better. And then you can go back and do the non-canon junk later.
Leaf, do you have anything you would like to add? Thank you for listening to this episode of the GameCola podcast. Have a wonderful time of day, wherever it is, whenever it is you're listening to this podcast, and we will see you next month. Goodbye!
Support Rivals 2 on Kickstarter if you're into that.
Dig in your nearest trash can and pull out a piece of glass and polish it.
And then throw it back in there.
and then publish the trash can. Okay, I just recently read a book series that has nothing to do with video games, but once I finished reading the series, I watched a video review on it, because the reason I read the series was because I started to watch a video review on it and was so inspired by the intro that I was like, I think I actually have to read this and not just watch a video on it. And then I took screenshots of some of my favorite comments under the video, and I want to read one of them to you now. It's like the author had a whole trash can, picked out some glass bottle shards, and polished the shards with such care and expertise that they might as well be some of the most luxurious gemstones imaginable. Then she chucked them back in the bin and published the whole trash can.
Awesome. I kind of want to read the book now.
You might like it. All right, here's the second one. Don't you hate it when you just want to play murder lacrosse with your murder boyfriend and your murder friends, but you have to stop being murdered by your murder dad and the murder mafia?
I need this book.
Yes! Yes! Please read it. You know what the best part is, Blue? Is that the first book is free, the second book is 99 cents, and the third book is also 99 cents.
Excellent. Good.